Have you ever wondered how some of the biggest companies in the world just seem to have a sixth sense for what you're about to buy? Well, spoiler alert, it's not magic. It's actually a super powerful and kind of invisible strategy that's all about the art of waiting. Okay, let's get into it.
You know the feeling, right? We've all been there. You do all your research. You know exactly the thing you want. The right color, the perfect size, all the features. You go to buy it and it's out of stock. It is so frustrating. Well, that exact feeling, that frustration, is the problem companies spend billions trying to solve. You see, for pretty much any company that makes stuff, their whole business boils down to this incredibly high-stakes guessing game. They have to try and predict, sometimes months ahead of time, what you and I are going to want. And if they guess wrong, the consequences are pretty severe.
Yeah, this guessing game really has two bad outcomes. If they make too little of that blue sweater that everybody wants, they lose out on sales and we get annoyed. But if they make way too much of the green one that nobody wants, they're stuck with warehouses full of clothes, and that costs an absolute fortune. It's a total catch-22.
So how do the smartest companies get out of this mess? Well, they don't try to guess better. Nope, they just change the rules of the game. And they do it with a really simple but kind of brilliant strategy. They wait. The official name for this is postponement. And it's really just the idea of keeping a product in a generic, kind of unfinished state for as long as humanly possible. You only add the final custom touches, the thing that makes it unique, at the very last second, right after you've got an actual customer order.
To really get how this works, just think about your local pizza place, right? They don't pre-make 100 pepperoni pizzas and 100 mushroom pizzas just crossing their fingers they guessed right. Of course not. They prep all the common stuff, the dough, the sauce, the cheese. They wait for your order to come in, and only then do they add the specific toppings you actually want. That's postponement, right there.
But look, this strategy isn't some magic bullet you can use for everything. It only really works under a very specific set of conditions. So let's take a look at what those are. Okay, so postponement is perfect when demand is all over the place, like for a brand new phone or seasonal fashion. It's also ideal when the products themselves are really expensive, because holding all that inventory costs a ton. It's also a game changer when you've got tons of different versions, different colors, memory sizes, you name it. And this is crucial, it works best when all those different final products share a lot of the same basic parts.
So, that's the theory. But let's look at how this actually plays out for real companies, because the results can be absolutely massive and sometimes, a complete disaster.
Let's start with a huge win. Back in the 90s, Hewlett-Packard had this major problem. They were selling the same exact printer all over Europe, but every country needed a different power cord and a different instruction manual. This meant they were stuck guessing. Okay, how many printers for Germany, how many for France, and they were often wrong.
Their solution was just pure postponement genius. Instead of making all these country-specific printers at the main factory, they started making just one generic, universal printer. They'd ship those to warehouses in Europe, and only when an order came in from, say, Spain, would they pop in the Spanish power cord and manual. Boom. They stopped having to forecast for dozens of individual countries and started forecasting for one big market, Europe.
The impact of this kind of pulling, as they call it, can be absolutely mind-blowing. To really see the financial power here, let's walk through an example for a personal computer company. So they have a choice. Option A, pre-build and stock 25 different computer models, each with a specific amount of memory and software. Or option B, stock a bunch of generic computer bodies and only install the custom RAM and software after a customer clicks buy.
So without postponement, to make sure they have enough of all 25 versions, they'd need to keep over 6,600 computers in stock. Think about that. That is a massive amount of cash just sitting on shelves collecting dust.
But by using postponement and customizing to order, that number just plummets to a little over 3,300 units. They cut their required inventory almost in half.
And the financial impact? It's just staggering. That one single strategic shift represents a nearly $10 million reduction in inventory. That's cash that's now free to be used for research, for marketing, for anything else, all because they chose to wait.
But postponement can also go spectacularly wrong. Just take this electronics company in the copier business. To compete, they went all in on a modular design, a classic postponement play, so one base model could be turned into many different copiers. The problem? The heavy-duty, expensive parts they needed for the fancy models made the basic low-end copiers way too expensive and bulky for small offices. They basically over-engineered the solution, and it completely backfired. And then you have the really tough cases, right? Where the choice isn't just about engineering or inventory numbers, but about something a lot harder to measure.
A high-end chocolate maker was wasting a ton of money on seasonal packaging they couldn't sell. The proposed fix was pure postponement. Use standard, generic boxes and just add custom holiday wraps or bows later on. The efficiency gains were a no-brainer. But the catch was huge. Would using a standard box, even a really nice one, damage their premium brand image? This is a tough trade-off between supply chain efficiency and what your brand stands for.
And really, that gets us to the heart of it all. Postponement is never a free lunch. It always involves a pretty fundamental trade-off.
On one side of the balance sheet, you've got these incredible benefits, right? Fewer stockouts mean more happy customers and more sales. Less inventory means way lower costs. But on the other side, you have very real costs. You might have to redesign your products to be modular, change your whole manufacturing process, invest in new computers and software, retrain your entire team. It all adds up, and it can add up fast.
So the key takeaway here is this. Postponement is a powerful, calculated bet, but it is not a magic bullet. It only makes sense if those massive benefits of being more flexible and efficient are actually greater than the very real costs of making it happen. It's a calculation every smart company has to run.
So now that you get the power of waiting, I've got a final question for you. Think about the world around you. The paint store that mixes your exact color right there on the spot. The computer you configure online before it's even built. Even the burrito bowl you customize as you go down the line. Where else do you see this powerful strategy hiding in plain sight?